Hey guys, I'm back again and I am here to do my book club suggestions list, what we will be choosing to read for the next school year 2022-2023. Okay, so previously, if you have not been following this channel before now, previously my book club here in Normandy, we have 15 members in the club, and at the end of the school year, we vote for the 7 books that we're going to read in the next school year. So how we would do that is each member will propose 1 book, and that would make a huge list. Actually, 2 books. We propose 1 or 2 books, and we would make a huge list. And from that list, we would have to choose 7 books. So we vote the last meeting of the school year. So that seemed fairly simple and not complicated at all. And then somebody got this brilliant idea, which I'm not so sure is so brilliant. But anyway, they got this brilliant idea to, instead of us choosing 2 books, suggesting 2 books for the list, that what we would do is we would suggest a book for 7 different categories of books. So the categories are, I have the list here: science fiction, fantasy, romance, nonfiction, a biography, autobiography, and memoirs, mystery, crime, thriller, literary fiction, and historical fiction. So it's with those 7 categories we're working with. So each member suggests a book for each category. Now, what that means is, being that I'm the esteemed leader of the book club, I have to wait for all the members to bring in their suggestions, which technically they should have given their suggestions by the 30th, which then got lengthened to like the 2nd or 3rd or 4th of the month of May, because people didn't do this ahead of time. So finally got the list, and so I have 7 lists of books, and you're not obligated to suggest for everyone. If there's, like, for example, a category that you don't read and you're just like, I don't really care, you don't want to suggest one, you don't have to. But when we go to vote, each member will vote for 2 books on each list. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start with one of the lists, and we're going to go through the list. Now, bear with me, okay? Because, this list right here. So we're going to start with the science fiction fantasy list. You know, that's my fave, the one that I do not like to read. All right, so on this list we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 11 books on this list. Thank you, Jesus. There are not 15 to choose from. All right, so the first book we have on this list is I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. All right, now, look, my husband is a diehard sci-fi fan. I am not. And from what I understand, Asimov, this is like up there kind of, kind of sci-fi. This is not like, some light sci-fi. This is something that, people who read sci-fi on a regular basis, this is what, they like to read. And as a matter of fact, I'm just going to cut to the chase. There is also a second book on here, which is called Foundation, which is another heavy-ass sci-fi novel that I have no intentions of ever wanting to read. So as you're going to see on each list that I present to you, you're going to see that it's clear that some of the people had difficulty remembering this is a book club read. You're not reading it by yourself. You're reading it with all of your other members. And so I feel like some people, they just put iRobot, because they know that it's sci-fi and it's Asimov. They didn't take a lot of thought about, is this something that our book club would enjoy reading as a group? I'm just saying. Okay, so I've got my iPad. I found iRobot, and I'm gonna, read a little bit about what it's about, because, I don't know what it's about. I don't really care, because I won't be voting for this one. I hope nobody else votes for it. All right, so it says, what happens when a robot begins to question its creators? What would be the consequences of creating a robot with a sense of humor or the ability to lie? How do we truly tell the difference between man and machine? In iRobot, Asimov sets out the 3 laws of robotics, designed to protect humans from their robotic creations and pushes them to their limits and beyond. Following genius robo-psychologist Dr. Susan Calvin and engineers Powell and Donovan, these short stories help to transform artificial intelligence from a dream into a science and change perceptions of robots forever. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, like, described like that, in a few lines, it sounds like it could give you something that's really interesting. But I know how it is when you start reading sci-fi. There's a lot of, it's very science-based, and it becomes very complicated, and there's a lot of background and stuff to remember. I don't do well with those kind of books. I just don't. So I don't really see myself doing well with having to read that, but it's a book club, so it might have to happen. All right, so the next book on the list is Foundation, also by Asimov. Okay, it says the Galactic Empire has prospered for 12,000 years. Nobody suspects that the heart of the thriving empire is rotten until psychohistorian Harry Seldon uses his new science to foresee its terrible fate. Exiled to the desolate planet Terminus, Seldon establishes a colony of the greatest minds in the empire, a foundation which holds the key to changing the fate of the galaxy. However, the death throes of the empire breed hostile new enemies, and the young foundation's fate will be threatened first. Okay, so that's that, Foundation. Not really my cup of tea either. This is the kind of thing I wouldn't mind watching on the screen, but I just don't really do well with these kinds of things in book form. Okay, next book on the list we have is called The Midnight Library. And this is by Matt Haig. This came out, I think it was in 2021. But I don't remember a lot of people talking about this book. So I really don't know what it's about. I have not really heard anyone that I follow closely talk about this book. But it says, then at the stroke of midnight on her last day on Earth, she finds herself transported to a library. There, she is given the chance to undo her regrets and try out each of the other lives she might have lived, which raises the ultimate question, with infinite choices, what is the best way to live? Okay. It sounds like it's more fantasy than sci-fi. I feel like there's some kind of time shift there or something. I guess if I had to read it, I could suck it up and read this one. But it doesn't look like something that I would, gladly go towards. But, hey, whatever. Well, we're going to try to make it work. Okay, the next book on the list I've already read. I read it when it came out because I had to read it for the BookTube prize, and that's called Piranesi. This was a book that, frankly, it's more in the fantasy category, I would say. Did I enjoy it? I don't know. Like, I read it and I really marveled over her capacity to make these elaborate descriptions. But as far as the story itself, I wasn't really interested. The story, I found it quite boring. I know people really liked it, but I just don't see what they liked about it. It didn't feel like much of a story to me once it was over. So, but here's what they say about Piranesi in case you don't know and haven't read it. It says, Piranesi lives in the house. Perhaps he always has. In his notebooks day after day, he makes a clear and careful record of its wonders. The labyrinth of halls, the thousands upon thousands of statues, the tides that thunder up staircases, the clouds that move in slow procession through the upper halls. On Tuesdays and Fridays, Piranesi sees his friend, the other. At other times, he brings tributes of food to the dead, but mostly he is alone. Messages begin to appear, scratched out in chalk on the pavements. There is someone new in the house. But who are they and what do they want? Are they a friend or do they bring destruction and madness as the other claims? Lost texts must be found. Secrets must be uncovered. The world that Piranesi thought he knew is becoming strange and dangerous. The beauty of the house is immeasurable. Its kindness infinite. So there you have it. And I think that's the best way to describe it without giving you too much away, because it's the kind of book where you're like, ugh, you don't know what to say about it, because literally you'll say too much and you'll have given away the whole thing, because the book is fairly short. So yeah, so we have Piranesi, next one. All right, the next book on the list is a big classic, which is The Martian Chronicles, and that's by Ray Bradbury. Have I read that? No. Okay. Do I know what it's about? No. I guess a bunch of Martians and their chronicles. I don't know. This is one that was suggested twice on the list. So, yeah. Okay, so it says, in Martian Chronicles, Ray Bradbury, America's preeminent storyteller, imagines a place of hope, dreams, and metaphor, of crystal pillars and fossil seas, where a fine dust settles on the great empty cities of a vanished, devastated civilization. Earthmen conquer Mars and then are conquered by it, lulled by dangerous lies of comfort and familiarity, and enchanted by the lingering glamour of an ancient, mysterious native race. In this classic work of fiction, Bradbury exposes our ambitious weaknesses and ignorance in a strange and breathtaking world where man does not belong. So yeah, that could be kind of good, but here again, I'd much rather watch it as a film than have to read it. Okay, the next book on the list is one that came out, I think it came out last year. Let me see if I'm not mistaken. It came out in 2021. It was longlisted for the Booker Prize. It's Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. And no, I did not read this one and would definitely stay away from this kind of book, but this is what it says. From her place in the store, Clara, an artificial friend with outstanding observational qualities, watches carefully the behavior of those who come in to browse and of those who pass in the street outside. She remains hopeful a customer will soon choose her, but when the possibility emerges that her circumstances may change forever, Clara is warned not to invest too much in the promises of humans. In Clara and the Sun, the first novel since winning the Nobel Prize in Literature, Kazuo Ishiguro looks at our rapidly changing modern world through the eyes of an unforgettable narrator to explore a fundamental question: what does it mean to love? Okay, so that one, I could get down with reading this one. You know, if this one popped up, I would probably be, oh, thank God, I'm relieved. I think I could try to get down with reading this one. Okay, the next book on the list is Dawn by Octavia E. Butler. And this is also from the Xenogenesis series, or other known as the Lilith's Brood series. Okay, so it says, if you don't know what it's about, it says, when Lilith Iapo wakes in a small white room with no doors or windows, she remembers a devastating war and a husband and a child long lost to her. She finds herself living among the Oankali, a strange race who intervened in the fate of humanity hundreds of years before. They spared those they could from the ruined earth and suspended them in a long, deep sleep. Over centuries, the Oankali learned from the past, cured disease, and healed the world. Now they want Lilith to lead her people back home, but salvation comes at a price. To restore humanity, it must be changed forever. Okay, so of course, I suggested this one because I feel like this is a really good read for someone who isn't maybe necessarily, drawn to reading sci-fi and fantasy. This is one that's easy to get down with, to read, and kind of, find interesting. So yeah, that's what I suggested. Okay, the next book on the list is Darkover Landfall, and this is by Marion Zimmer Bradley. I don't know if this is sci-fi or fantasy. I want to say it might be fantasy. Not really sure. Or maybe a little bit of both. Okay, so it says Darkover Planet of Wonder, World of Mystery has been a favorite of science fiction readers for many years. For it is a truly alien sphere, a world of strange intelligences, of brooding skies beneath a ruddy sun, and of powers unknown to Earth. In this novel, Marion Zimmer Bradley tells of the original coming of the Earthmen, of the days when Darkover knew not humanity. This is the full-bodied novel of what happened when a colonial starship crash-landed on that uncharted planet to encounter for the first time in human existence the impact of the ghost wind, the psychic currents that were native only to that world, and the price that every earthling must pay before Darkover could claim him for itself. I don't know. This sounds kind of weird. I don't know. Not really my cup of tea at all. I can't even get down with it, I don't think. But yeah. So we got that. The next one on the list is Sea of Tranquility, and this is by Emily St. John Mandel. It says, Edwin St. Andrew is 18 years old when he crosses the Atlantic by steamship, exiled from polite society following an ill-conceived diatribe at a dinner party. He enters the forest spellbound by the beauty of the Canadian wilderness and suddenly hears the notes of a violin echoing in an airship terminal, an experience that shocks him to his core. 2 centuries later, a famous writer named Olive Welland is on a book tour. She's traveling all over Earth, but her home is the second moon colony, a place of white stone, spired towers, and artificial beauty. Within the text of Olive's best-selling pandemic novel lies a strange passage. A man plays his violin for change in the echoing corridor of an airship terminal as the trees of a forest rise around him. Okay, a lot of mystery going on there. I really don't know. Emily St. John Mandel has a very good reputation. Now, a lot of people seem to love her books. So who knows? Maybe it could be something I could get down with. I don't know. And the last one on this list is Station 11, also by Emily St. John Mandel. So this one, it says, set in the days of the civilization's collapse, Station 11 tells the story of a Hollywood star, his would-be savior, and a nomadic group of actors roaming the scattered outposts of the Great Lakes region, risking everything for art and humanity. One snowy night, a famous Hollywood actor slumps over and dies on stage during a production of King Lear. Hours later, the world as we know it begins to dissolve, moving back and forth in time from the actor's early days as a film star to 15 years in the future, when a theater troupe known as the Traveling Symphony roams the wasteland of what remains. This suspenseful, elegiac, spellbinding novel charts the strange twist of fate that connect 5 people: the actor, the man who tried to save him, the actor's wife, his oldest friend, and a young actress with the Traveling Symphony, caught in the crosshairs of a dangerous, self-proclaimed prophet. Okay, I don't know. That doesn't sound like something that I would be interested in reading. But here again, you know, this is not really my, you know, it's not really my subject matter. So yeah, so that is the first of the 7 lists. Stay tuned for the next list, which will be romance. So yeah, that should be interesting. You're gonna see. All right, hang in there. Bye.